Hi, and welcome to the City Sculptors Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Williams. I am also the Director of Operations for 12th Street Heritage Development Corporation, but for the past 4 years, I have been immersed in the real estate and development world. That journey led me to this podcast, the City Sculptors. Here, we take a look behind the curtain and we talk to business owners, city leaders, construction workers, realtors, and developers, and we see what does this world really look like and how a city is shaped. So if you've ever wondered what she does seems kind of fun, or hey, I want to make a difference in my community and be a city leader, listen and subscribe and hit like, because here, me, you, and anybody listening can be a city sculptor. Welcome back to the City Sculptors Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Williams, and today we are joined by none other than Michael Shaw, Public Works Director of Kansas City.
Hey, good evening. Glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're so excited to have you here and kind of deep dive into what the Public Work Director does and, the involvement in Kansas City and how that sculpts and shapes Kansas City. So I'll start with how you started.
All right.
And I have that you started your career in law enforcement.
That's correct. I did. Coming out of college, I actually was a police officer in Columbia, Missouri for about 6 years, and then moved to Kansas City in 1998. I'm married with kids, and my wife wanted a career here in Kansas City, so I moved here to support her growth and her dreams, and I got a job with the city of Kansas City right out of the gate. Actually, I got my job before I even moved from Columbia.
Okay.
I had my job here in Kansas City as an investigator that investigated illegal dumping. So back in the day, they had, illegal dumping was just really bad, and it was like chemical dumping and just really some really bad dumping stuff going on in Kansas City, and so they started an environmental crimes unit, and I was one of the initial investigators in the Kansas City's environmental crimes unit. So, yeah, that's where I started my career here in Kansas City.
So with that kind of background, how did you transition into the public works? So how did those correlate? Obviously, public works does illegal dumping. You guys aren't oversee, but did you go right into being the director or? Oh,
no, it took many years.
Okay.
So my growth was essentially that as I investigated illegal dumping, so obviously I was dealing with trash a lot too. And so then I was like, well, let's look at the systems of trash and try to improve the systems of trash service so that we can reduce the amount of illegal dumping that was going on. And so I've kind of, in that case, worked my way up through the trash side of the house and became managing the city's trash services probably back in 2001. So 24 years ago, I began managing the city's trash service. And then over time, a lot of lessons learned, natural disasters, all those things. And you kind of learn being out there in the community and listening to the community's needs and what they want. And so we began changing and crafting into the city services that we have today. And then from that, I became, in 2005, I became an assistant director of the then Public Works Department.
Okay.
And I was an assistant director for about 9 years. And then we went to the Neighborhoods Department, and then we came back to Public Works in 2021 when I was appointed Director of Public Works in 2021.
Okay. I love that. So, you kind of took the steps. So it sounds like you kind of learned kind of all the steps in between, and that makes a better director when you know the ins and out of a job.
Yeah. Grew up, as I say, I grew up with the guys, if you will. And so I came from the bottom to the top, so to speak.
So early in your career, what shaped your approach to public infrastructure? Was it law enforcement? Was it what you saw as you were kind of in trash, or what shaped how you approach things now?
I think my biggest thing is about being intentional, right? Having intentional results. That's always been something very important to me. But also, law enforcement also played a role about public safety. Everything we do has a piece to do in public safety as it relates to, public works or even trash. In trash, you hear about the broken windows theory, right? Keeping the trash cleaned up, it can reduce crime and blight and all of that. So we have an absolute role and responsibility to help in that space. In public safety, related to Vision Zero, having engineering intersections so that people aren't crashing and having fatal accidents, and traffic signals and stoplights and street lights and all that stuff are elements of public safety. And so we have a role in helping make our city as safe as we can. So understanding those things, I try to make sure that we're very intentional about all the things that we do, so that we can ensure that when people use, whether it's a sidewalk or a street or a trail, that they can do that in a safe manner and they can get home back to their loved ones.
Thank you for that. Keeping us safe. So what all falls under you? You said streets, sidewalks.
Yeah, Public Works is a pretty big organization. It's the third largest department in the city. In Public Works, we have engineering, your typical engineering, where it's the capital projects, building new roads and bridges. We also have our construction group that oversees construction of sidewalks and street resurfacing and those types of those things. And then we also have transportation. So your streetcar, your buses, the e-bikes and scooters and all that is in our transportation group. And then operations with the maintenance of those roads. Our street operations groups maintain the roads, fill the potholes, clean the ditches, those things. And then solid waste, all your trash services that goes in there.
Okay. So any long-term projects? I know just over the years that I've known you, more has fallen under Public Works. Are there any new projects coming or anything newer in the past year that you're excited about?
One of the most exciting projects we got going on right now is Revive the Vine. It is, it's a $400 million project that's going on right now. You can see everything that we're doing at kcmo.gov/Revive the Vine, which is really all about improving and really restoring the glory of 18th and Vine back to the community. You have tremendous amount of developers. So there's a lot of, personal development going on. You got individual companies, different companies doing substantial development there, as well as city infrastructure going in there. And that collaborative energy is creating a brand new Vine Street that really captures and really supports the culture, heritage, and significance of the 18th and Vine District. And I'm super excited to be a part of that.
I'm excited to see it. I've kind of talked about me being younger, and now we have a project down there. People talk about like the glory days and how exciting it was when it was first built. So I'm excited to see, not how it was first built, but with modern technology and everything added, the vision of what you guys have.
Right. It's going to be exciting. I will say there's so many things that's going on, from, bringing in fountains to lighting to pedestrian spaces to hotels, parking garages, more homes, mixed use space. There's art there and all the museums that are coming in. We got new museums coming into the district. So it's really going to be a great, great, great asset to this city. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So is there you kind of spoke about projects that we know. Is there any behind the scenes essentials that our listeners may not know that you all do and have a hand in?
Yeah. One of the things that it's going to sound maybe not such a big deal, but it is our streetlights. I mean, our streetlight program, one of the first projects that I kind of got involved with, we have our streetlight crew is fantastic. I mean, I can't speak enough about the street lighting team. There's a guy named Mahmood who oversees all this I call him the electrical engineer, man. And this guy is just a genius. And, he put together a phenomenal solution to street lighting. And not only did we get this project done on, ahead of time, but below budget. And we're saving the city millions of dollars every year since he did this project. And I'm just really thrilled to have been a part of that and help champion that effort. And we may not see how big a deal that is, but when you're saving millions of dollars every year based on a one-time spend, And, we're getting that return on investment. It's coming back in like 4 years. So it's amazing. And, really proud of that.
Yeah. And we love street lights because I wear glasses at night and I can't see. So I like the street lights. With the street lights, you talked about Vine, how does public work with the neighborhoods to kind of ensure maybe their vision or maybe underserved communities? How do you guys work with that?
That's a great question. So I can use solid waste as a classic example of working with our community. There's some intrinsic things that we do that I just really love about being, again, that word intentional, about doing something intentional and bringing out an intentional outcome. In our solid waste group, there's a couple things. One, when we started Trash Carts back in 2005, that was a community-led initiative. It started in Ivanhoe, Miss Margaret May, and there was about 8 other communities that came together and said, we want trash carts. And it started with a $400,000 pilot that turned into a multi-million-dollar effort. And that was community-led. The community drove that process. And I'm just really happy about that for the community to see that their wants were being addressed. The other thing is, and it may not seem big to some, but it's important, is our mowing and litter abatement programs. They serve very intentional communities. We have communities, our reentry people, men and women, that are able to find employment coming back. Our returning citizens are finding employment by working into these programs. We see it, community investment. We have a lot of neighborhoods that actually take care of their own vacant lots in their property or in their neighborhood, and they're getting paid to do so. And that reinvestment is going back into those communities. We have domestic violence shelters. We have homeless folks. In youth, all are receiving funding to do litter abatement or mowing within their own communities. And that when we're recycling that Kansas City dollar, so we're putting it back into the community, back into beneficial reuse, and it's really supporting and growing our city.
Yeah, and we're appreciative of that program because I know we have partnered on that program. And when people get to beautify their own neighborhood, they take more pride in it.
Absolutely.
And so that program, was that started by you?
Well, no, I can't take credit for starting the program, but I certainly will say that a lot of the intentionality behind what we're doing and getting more neighborhood groups involved in it was sort of our spirit of maybe not contracting it out to to big contractors, but getting more of the community involved with solving the community's problems.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that the infrastructure aligns with maybe the cultural context from downtown, the difference between, how you spoke about 18th and Vine and 5th District? You kind of oversee all of that. So how do you make sure each neighborhood is kind of different and unique, but you have the thought process and intentionality behind that?
Well, yeah, and it really revolves around community engagement. I think a super fantastic project going on is the Southwest Boulevard streetscape that's going on, and that's going on on the west side of Kansas City, and the engagement and involvement of the West Side community in solving some of their long-term problems that they've had along one of the historic boulevards in their community, and they're being a part of that solution. Everything from the design to the art, it is going to be a showstopper. Southwest Boulevard is going to be a showstopper, and we're really looking forward to people going and showing. We want to show off Southwest Boulevard and all of the great restaurants we have on the west side, and it's going to be a showpiece.
So how did they start the community engagement? Maybe for our listeners who maybe want to start something in their neighborhood, do they come to you? How did they get started?
Oh, no. I mean, really, our council members, we have super fantastic council folks. I mean, they often, people always complain. They want to complain to their council as though the council isn't doing anything. But I would honestly say the council that we have are really good. They're very well engaged. And specifically on the west side, I give a lot of credit to Councilman Rea. He's been a very strong supporter of the West Side, and he gets us the things that we need to be successful for his district. Also, Councilman Bunch, who's there, he was very instrumental in ensuring the funding came to to that district. So I think we have very great advocates in our council members who advocate exceptionally well for their districts and this community as a whole. And so really the credit goes to them in terms of listening to their constituents and then driving that social change.
Okay. You kind of spoke on pushing the budget along, and they find funding that some of the council people. How do you as Public Works Director tackle some of those challenges and funding constraints, especially in the climate that we're in 2025, but getting projects done and keep moving forward?
It's about leveraging. We try to do as much as we can. We try to leverage projects. And so, we understand that our funding is, instead of treating the funding as the only source, we try to treat our funding as the seed money to greater funding. An example of that is a bridge improvement grant. Kansas City was awarded the largest bridge improvement grant this year or last year. And what it came from is we had one bridge in Kansas City that was funded through our GeoBond program. We was able to take the funding from that bridge and then apply for some federal funds to get 8 other bridges, put them in a bridge package, and we submitted that bridge package to have bridges all across this city done, and not just in one district, but all. And that bridge grant was awarded, and we had the largest bridge grant award in the United States, came here to Kansas City. That is getting 9 bridges rebuilt here in Kansas City off the cost of one bridge. And so leveraging, and we do a really good job of leveraging. Our city engineer, Nick Bassonetto, and his team do an absolutely fantastic job of coordinating those type of efforts. That's
good to know. You wouldn't think of Kansas City for bridges. So that's very interesting that we now have 9 new or upcoming new bridges. So
absolutely.
During major events, floods, winter storms, intense heat, what's Public Works' response strategy for keeping residents safe and services running?
Well, the heat is a problem, and even cold, right? Mm-hmm. So when it's really hot out there, we really try to make sure we take care of our people. The men and women that go out and perform the services, whether it's trash or whether it's snow removal, or no matter what the service is that they provide out there on the street, we try to ensure that they're safe. So we try to make sure they have the proper PPE, protective equipment, to go out there and go do that. Proper staffing, whether we got to put out extra equipment, extra trucks, those types of things. Or in some cases, we may have to suspend service to ensure that they're safe. Yeah. We may see that in the wintertime, for example, in snow, when you have more than, you have a large storm. We had the 4th largest snowstorm in recorded history here last winter. And we didn't pick up trash because those men and women were out helping plow snow to make our city safe and get these streets clear so that we can get this city back to work.
Yeah, and I think I got since I've been an adult, the first message of stay at home, stay off the road. Yeah, I was not playing. So, we appreciate your staff, making sure everybody's safe. This past winter was nothing to play with. So I'm sure you guys have to talk about what could happen just in case, extreme circumstances happen.
Absolutely.
With that, we are going to go to break.
All right.
And we will be right back. Welcome back to the City Sculptors Podcast. I am still your host, Alexis Williams, and we still have Director Michael Shaw with us. Where we left off was how Public Works plans for weather. How do you guys plan, though, for rallies, parades, different things like that? That's been very big in Kansas City recently with the Super Bowl and everything else, different protests happening. Tell us how you guys prepare or plan for that.
Yeah. So, the great thing is every time the Chiefs win a Super Bowl or the Royals win the World Series, or, in this case, there's protests or rallies, we're actively involved with ensuring the safety of the public. there's a lot of work that goes into those things, and I can, happily say we're pretty good at it now, right? So we've done it enough. And of course, again, as we know about the tragedy that happened at the last rally that we had, or the last parade we had, despite the the unfortunate situation that occurred, it was great to see that we was able to take control of that situation as quickly as they have. And that goes to the men and women at Kansas City Police Department. Their preparedness was just, above reproach. And again, it's just sad that happened. But that doesn't stop us from preparing for the next group of parades and things of that sort. It maybe changes how we do things a little bit. But when you get into those parades, and the way that we've done those in the past is, it takes several hundred people, hundreds of police officers, hundreds of staff, from cleaning up and making sure that the roads and everything's in good shape. So when they, you can go down the parade, everything is fine. The parade people coming in and out of the parade, and then all of the parking required to get the people to even watch the parade. When you get 500,000 people into one area, it gets tough. We did that with the NFL draft, right?
Yes.
We had 600,000 people descend upon Union Station, and over 3 or 4 days, and without incident, everything went exceptionally well. And so we've been very fortunate to have great events and things like that. And again, the last one that we had was just so unfortunate. And we just hope that we can get back to the place where we can enjoy those Super Bowl wins and World Series parades and all those great things here in Kansas City.
Yeah. So what about the protests? I kind of heard you speak on, you guys prepare for those too. I mean, sometimes we don't know protests are happening, but if you do know, is it the residents and the citizens of Kansas City, is that your first priority, safety, or how do we approach that?
Yeah, so I think that we have an amazing emergency operations center, and that team, and again, credit goes to KCPD. I know they get a lot of, they get beat up in the media a lot, but there's a lot of really good people in Kansas City Police Department that does a lot of great things for our city. And people just don't know the crises that have been avoided because of their preparedness and professionalism. And me being where I've been behind the scenes, sometimes I've seen how hard they work and the preparedness that they have. So, we got an upcoming protest that could turn volatile potentially. We don't know, but there are so many things that are underway and going on behind the scenes that has, the city is prepared for this protest or whatever it is. We had a rally or protest of some sort where some people came and marched through our city and went up to the up near our World War I museum and monument and had their rally or protest, and without incident, right? I mean, there could but it was without incident, right? And so the men and women at Kansas City Police Department, again, they should, people should take their hats off. We do have a very good police department, and so behind the scenes, if I can tell you that when you go into this emergency operations program, the amount of resource that goes in is tremendous. And the goal is to keep everybody safe. Okay. The protesters, the people, anybody who goes there, everybody's going to be safe, and they're able to have their voices heard and be able to, move on from there.
Yeah. And we appreciate you guys for that. We kind of spoke about off camera how, Martin Luther King, his message was a peaceful protest. And I think having a city leader who says that is your right and isn't ready to jump the gun, you kind of come from a more place of understanding. Yeah. We definitely appreciate that. So what kind of gave you that place of understanding? Who kind of influenced you to see maybe both sides, or maybe it's just how long you've lived life? I don't know.
Well, I would say as a police officer, one of the things that I learned was it wasn't so much the people. They didn't dislike me because I was a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it was the badge.
Yeah. Okay.
It was the authority that I represented. It wasn't me as an individual. And so you also have to reciprocate that back, because a lot of times if you can have an influence on somebody and then say, instead of me choosing to, as I always say, lead by the power of example, not example of your power. I don't have to impose my power up on someone, but show them how to empower themselves through how you act and how you react. And you can change their behavior and show that they have a place, that it's okay to be at odds or be dissenting without violence and stuff. And so as a police officer, I used to use that term, talk them into the cuffs. I didn't have to really fight anybody to detain them. It was through conversation, it was through understanding, and developed good relationships with people. And you found that you didn't really need to do all that. And so now, again, that was in the early 90s. And so times have certainly changed. Mm-hmm. So, but I tend to believe that just knowing that, even though there are people, and I'll even give Mayor Lucas credit. Mayor Lucas is always as cool as the other side of the pillow, right? Yeah. I mean, I very rarely see him rattled, but just knowing that everybody has the right to be who they are. Everyone has the right to say, potentially, have their freedoms of speech and all those things. And we can be dissenting without being violent or having to come to fisticuff. Sometimes it's best to be a good listener and maybe try to gain perspective. You may not agree, but you can certainly gain perspective, and helps you grow.
I like that. So is there maybe any organization, I know I'm a part of several boards. I was a part of a sorority. I still am in college. Right. And so that kind of had
one. There ain't but one. So we can end that whole thing right now.
That had influence on you.
Without question, Kappa Alpha Psi, there ain't but one fraternity in the world. Everything else, I don't know what those are. Okay. But what I will say is that the fundamental purpose of Kappa Alpha Psi is achievement, and that means being the best version of you that you can be, and to have like-minded men to hold you accountable to that standard of being the best version of you that you can be, and it helps shape you over time. When sometimes we have good days and bad days, but for them to respect and appreciate and love you for who you are. And then help lift you up and help, stand there when you're weak, and continue to push you to be great. And like I said, man, and that just puts a different mindset in there. It's like, no one can outwork me. Yeah. Just really no one can outwork me, because, we say all the time, you can rest when you die, until you 10 toes down until you 10 toes up. So you just got to keep grinding and making a difference, because all that I am is a father and a husband, right? That is who I am, is a father and a husband. And so provider and protector, I got to do whatever I got to do to take care of my family.
And you are a worker, because tomorrow is your birthday.
Yes.
And you are going to be working tomorrow. So
absolutely.
You definitely live by your words. You are an example of what that means. And so maybe for younger you, maybe for our listeners, younger men and women, how do they get that type of mentorship and mentality, even when they're young? Maybe if you don't join a fraternity, how can we mentor those? How can they be city sculptors?
Well, I would say, who you was yesterday does not define who you're going to be tomorrow. Okay. So everyone has choice of change. And, the version of me today is better than the version of me that was yesterday. And so I continue to get better. You continue to find other people to help you become a better version of you. And I would tell that anybody, everybody is somebody, and everybody's important. Your voice is always going to be heard. You don't know when you're going to impact somebody. Yeah. Right. And so, everybody truly is a sculptor. Yeah. The question is finding what your role is and where you fit into that piece of art, right? To that culture we call Kansas City. And it's not always going to be evident when you first start, but you have to keep going. I don't know that, my role right now with the public works director, that's just my role today. It may not be my role tomorrow, right? What is my role tomorrow? Because we all change. We all go through this thing called life, and we get into different spaces and places of life. So never give up.
Yeah.
Never give up.
That was a whole little mini sermon right there.
There you go. So. There you go. I got a few of them.
Okay. We'll come back to them. So influence from people. We kind of got your perspective there. We got your perspective on having influence of people around you, organizations. You're a traveler. Has any cities, states, countries influenced how you are a public director?
Yeah, interestingly, I've had the great opportunity to travel abroad, and when I travel abroad, it's kind of getting nerdy because I look at probably things that everybody else don't look at. So I look at the infrastructure, right? I'm looking at the streets, I'm looking at lights, I'm looking at the curbs, I'm looking at sidewalks, I'm just looking at how buildings are interacting with their environment, and then how people are interacting within the environment. And so I'm that sightseer, and I can say that there's been 3 trips that I've taken abroad that has influenced design choices here in Kansas City for me. There's one, the first time I was actually in Mexico, and I was went to Cancun, and I saw this water going down the curb. And at first I saw the curb and it had all these slots in the curb, and I was thinking, why would you have slots in the curb?
Right.
It seems like that'll break the infrastructure, and the math didn't math for me when I saw it. But then it was raining, and then when I saw the rain, I saw how the water would run down the curb, and the water would go into these slots and then go and naturally go into the grass. And so it was sort of this idea of being able to capture the rainwater and put it back into the earth without piping it into doing grade solutions or slowing down the grade solutions. And I was like, wow, that's actually pretty neat. And I actually had the opportunity to do a design similar to that, actually here in Kansas City, up near a school where they didn't have stormwater pipe, but water would run down the street. And so we actually built a sidewalk and put in what's called sawtooth curbing that does exactly the same thing, where the rainwater would run down the sidewalk, but it would gently run off into the grass without flooding. And so now kids can walk to school and they have a sidewalk, but then it's not flooding in and around there. And I kind of saw that in Mexico. Another one was I was in China a couple of years ago, and I was just amazed by how they use light in their designs. And I was in Shanghai actually, and they had the bridge was just lit up, and the way they had LED lights on the bridge and all that, it turned it from a bridge into art, and it was just really fascinating to me. And so coming back to Kansas City, one of the things that we did is we on the Bond Bridge, we actually put teal lights on the bridge, and that, the Kansas City Currents, our soccer team.
Yeah.
And so it was like, man, we got to turn those bridge lights teal so that they can see. If you're in Current Stadium, you can actually see that bridge out of Current Stadium, and it's teal. And the coloring and how that color was used was something that I saw in China. And I was excited to bring that back. And I had a great city manager, Brian Platt, just great individual. And he jumped all over it, and he supported the idea. And man, we worked with the Missouri Department of Transportation, and we got those teal lights on the bridge. And it's just an iconic image of Kansas City now.
Somebody have a picture? We need to see a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I do got a picture of it. And another one was their use of lighting at crosswalks. And actually this year, if you go out to Berry Road by Park Hill High School, you will see that there is lighting on Berry Road for the crosswalks on Berry Road. I got that idea when I was in China and saw how they use lighting at crosswalks to make crossing intersections safer. And when you're talking about crossing Berry Road, 6-lane road, you got all these youth because there's, a school there. And so that idea came to me when what I saw in China. And so we implemented that here in Kansas City. So, and there's other ones that I got coming. I'm not going to tell you, but I was in Africa. I know I'm not going to give all the secrets, but I was in Africa and I saw something else that was really interesting. So, seeing if we can't implement it here in Kansas City.
But that's very interesting how Kansas City, just your influence and influence of other countries are here in Kansas City. I don't think people realize how much, influence Kansas City, like I said earlier, who thinks of Kansas City and thinks of bridges. You guys have done that, lighting, all of those things. So we can always learn from other people. I think that's the message there. I'm excited to see. I haven't been to KC Current yet, so I'll have to go just to see the lights.
Yes.
I'm going to say
it's awesome. The bridge, that bridge, when it's lit up in teal, it is an absolute knockout vista.
Well, anything else that you want to give our viewers? Everybody can kind of be city sculptors. Well, not kind of. Everybody is a city sculptor.
Everybody is. Absolutely.
Everybody is a city sculptor. We've kind of gone from law enforcement to public works. Maybe people don't necessarily want to be the public works director, but they can. You have a lot of jobs that fall under you. I know you guys are always hiring.
We're always hiring. What we say is, we have positions, maintenance workers to concrete workers to, truck drivers to construction inspection workers, admin workers, admin staff, ticket writers that write tickets for parking. We have so many jobs in Kansas City that's available. And we would love for you to come. Yeah. Anyone who's out there who wants a job, come see us in Kansas City, kcmo.gov/jobs. Come see us. We got plenty of jobs. I know our colleagues out there are looking for great young talent. Yeah. And we are doing a great job. I think that our city's doing a great job at investing in our workers and, training and education and growth of our workforce and work staff. We do a good job of workforce development.
Can you speak on that real quick? Because you were telling us you guys have VR.
Yes.
It's training and still keeping up with the current times.
Yeah. So, interestingly, in public works, we use a lot of technology, and maybe people don't know that. And we have, for example, people may not know, but we actually have AI on some of our trash trucks. So when they're driving down the street, it's actually taking a picture of the street and scanning it for potholes and getting that information back to our pothole crews so they can go and fill potholes, so we can try to be a little more proactive. We got a lot of work to do in the development of that, but and we got a lot of different technology that we use in doing that. Road scans to talk about translongitudinal cracking and the different things as it relates to our asset management and all that. And the challenge that we have is, as we continue to use more and more technology, there is the digital divide, right? There is the digital divide. That's very real. And so we have a multi-generational workforce. And so not everyone is at the same level in the use of technology. So we have to make sure that we educate our staff on how to use technology and make it so that it's very user-friendly for them, and teach and help educate and grow them into the use of technology. So when they begin using that technology, they can grow. So in the Public Works Department, next month, we're opening up our training center where we'll actually have VR training. We'll have computer literacy training and a lot of training for our staff in the computer. We also have we actually have simulators, driving simulators, so how to drive cars, trucks, and utilizing equipment through use of technology, grading, and all this other kind of thing. We're partnering with Goodwill, which I'm blown away with Goodwill. There's some great people there. You guys got to go check out Kansas City's Goodwill. They have fantastic training opportunities for all. I would definitely tell people to go check them out. Okay. And but we're partnering to really develop our staff, utilizing technology. And, the transcendental benefit of that is they become better users of technology that help prepare them to live, play, and work in today's society as technology continues to grow.
That is, I mean, honestly, our whole conversation today is just an innovative way of thinking. You kind of think about everything top to bottom. That's what a director's supposed to do. But, also the compassion that you have for your people, employees, and the people of Kansas City. We greatly appreciate everything that you all do to keep us safe at Public Works. So what is a final message you would like to leave with our viewers? Is it 10 toes down till you're 10 toes up?
Always, you got to always be there. I would say simply, for our men and women out there, bless people with your presence, not presence. You be present in people's lives, help them be successful, help them grow. We're as great as we can be when we're all as one. And so there's only one Kansas City, and we make it what it is. So let's all do it together and make it a big, beautiful place.
We will end on that note. Thank you for watching the City Sculptors. See you next time. Thank you for watching this episode of the City Sculptors. If you've ever thought about how our city shaped or thinking about a new career path, this podcast is for you. We upload every second and fourth Monday. I'm your host, Alexis Williams, and this is the City Sculptors Podcast.